Our gospel reading for this morning, prepare us to the great feast of the Ascension. That's why, if you notice, in our readings, the theme speaks about the farewell discourse. And we heard words like, I am leaving, I am going away, I will return to the Father, I will no longer speak much. And because of these words, the disciples were troubled. They were afraid. And Jesus gave them a very consoling words. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. Since Jesus is leaving, he is assuring his disciples with a message of peace. And he told them, peace I live with you, my peace I give to you. In short, today we are reminded that Jesus is the source of peace. He is our joy and he is our security. And when we speak about peace, peace is having a relationship with Jesus. Jesus is the standard of peace. And he is wishing us peace. And to be at peace, we need two things. Number one, do not be anxious. And number two, do not be afraid. And connecting it in our first reading, sometimes we are anxious, we are afraid, we are troubled because we were persecuted. We were persecuted in so many ways. But St. Paul in our first reading says, it is through many persecutions that we must enter the kingdom of God. Friends, why are we troubled? Why are we afraid? Maybe because we connect ourselves to a wrong source. That's why to be at peace, we need to be calm. We need to be relaxed because we believe that God is in control. The cure, the antidote, the medicine for a troubled heart is trusting the Lord, believing in Him. And let the Eucharist we celebrate every day increase our desire for peace. Let Jesus in the Eucharist moves us to be channels of peace. And for today, in my reflection, I have 3 proposals, suggestions to maintain our experience of peace. Even if you are persecuted like St. Paul, never stop believing. That's why number 1, in order to maintain our experience of peace, we need to pray. When you are persecuted, pray. When you are sick, pray. When you are in trouble, pray. When you are in doubt and you cannot understand your faith, you cannot understand yourself, you cannot understand others, you cannot understand the will of God, pray. Because prayer is our connection to the divine that leads us to serenity and leads us to the tranquility of our soul. If we are not praying, we will always be disturbed. If we are not praying, we will always be afraid. Second, if we wanted to maintain the experience of peace, aside from prayer, number 2, we need to detach ourselves from earthly desires. Because I firmly believe, the less we have, the peaceful our life will be. The less we have, the peaceful peaceful our life will be. Let go of all our inordinate attachments, because most of them, those are the reasons why we are not in peace. And finally, to maintain the experience of peace, do good and keep doing it. That's what St. Paul did in our first reading. He undergone severe persecution. And can you imagine that persecution here? It says, supposing that he was dead. It means he was tortured. But he never stopped. Why do we need to do good? Because goodness is the door of peace. I say it again. Goodness is the door of peace. To conclude, the peace that Jesus promised is not an escape, or it's not an exemption from persecution. It is not an exemption from troubles, but it is the courage and the boldness to face life challenges without fear. Remember, it is through many persecutions that we must enter the kingdom of God. And this is the grace that we ask in this Mass, that the Lord will give us peace, serenity in our hearts, and peace in our mind. To have peace, pray, detach from our earthly desires, do good,